Hey everyone, it's time for a little guitar backup on the D tune, Down the River I Go. It's a wonderful tune. It's got a nice C chord in there, which I love. And what I'm going to do on the guitar backup this time, and I did it on the backing up Aaron earlier in the fiddle video, I'm dropping my bass down to a low D just for fun. If you've never done that before, you'll find this a lot of fun on D tunes. And of course you got to change your fingering on that low string. It'll be 2 frets toward the body. So your G chord, which would look like that normally, is going to look like you got to get that bass down here. And we're going to do just partial chords for this. And also another thing, if you've never finger picked, I'm going to do it in a finger picking fashion, which might be another thing for you to try in this because it's kind of an easy going tune. And we'll get into some chord inversions, just with the D, C, G chords, and even maybe a little A, we'll see. So first of all, let's just look at our right hand for a second. The basic thing I'm doing is using that low bass a lot. So let's just get that low bass first. Let's just play a D chord. And a lot of this, I think, even using that small, not even using the first string. Another really good concept on guitar playing is if you're not using a string in your pattern, especially finger picking, you don't have to put that, if you're not going to pick it, you don't have to put the finger down that string. So a D chord, normally like that, if I just pick up on that, let's just pick our 6-string bass with our thumb. And we're going to do a maybe 2-string grab with our first 2 fingers, say the 2nd and 3rd string. So that's going to be very handy. Just that right there. I'm just doing 2 strings for the chord or the pluck. A pinch, almost like a pinch. It's a bass and a chord. So I'm getting the 6th string and the 3rd and 2nd string. So let's just look at a couple of chord things. So we're going to try that. That would be a D sound. For C, let's just think of our C chord. And again, if I'm not going to be picking that 4th string, I might just use my first finger to get that, the first 3 strings will be a C chord there. And my low C there, so it's a C chord without the 2nd finger. And I'll pick the 5th string, the main bass, and the same 2 strings. Okay, so in the first part of this, before we even sing a verse or anything, let's just look at the starts in C. So I'm going to start with that. You could even walk up if you wanted to. But I'm going to pick that 5th string and do a 3rd and 2nd string a couple times. And then what we're going to do for the G chord, we're going to do a partial chord there too. I can do it, go down to the 5th fret on the low string. You can slide maybe a fret. And then I'm going to get that 3rd string, 4th fret. And again, keep the same strings for our pluck. Okay, so C chord, 5th string, and then slide. Let's just do that a couple times. That's going to be the start of the verse. Up to C. Going to have D. And then we're going to get into a little melody there. The melody's going to be, again, I'm picking the bass. So I've got a little partial D again, and I'm going to pick the 4th string for my bass and do the same strings. The 3rd and 2nd. And then I'm going to pick up on my first finger note, get that open and go to the 4th string, 2nd fret. And then I'm going to jump right back with that first finger there and pick it again with my thumb, or it could be an index finger. So let me just do the first line there. And the words of one of the verses like, come along and go with me, down the river I go. We're going to do the same thing again. It's going to have a little different ending. So it's going to be pretty easy. We'll get into some variations too, but the second time around, it's going to carry me back to Tennessee, down the river I. This time it's going to go to the open 4th string, keeping that partial D. Go 4 and 6. So that's the whole first part. An easy verse music there. So the chords are going to be C to G to D twice. So let's just do that nice and slow. So I'll do another verse. So of course the chorus is going to be going from D to G. So we'll get into that with a quick A coming around. So the verse though, again, I'm going to walk up without singing for a second. C chord, 5th string bass, slide that partial G with the 6th string bass, and the small D, picking up and getting that melody. Does that again, C5 twice, slide to 5 on that bass, partial G, open 4th string and open 4 that time. I'll do that again. Come along and go with me, down the river I go. Carry me back to Tennessee, down the river I go. Play it one more time before we get into. And for the The verse music, we'll get into just some first three string triads in a minute, because you could do that really beautifully with just chord inversions up and neck in three different places and have a really nice variation behind your singing, or if you're backing up the fiddle too, you know. And each fiddler's different. Some fiddlers like you to stay low, and if you got a fiddler that kind of likes a rambling guitar backup, this is a great chance to move up the neck and play some really pretty stuff. It depends on how fast people play the tunes too. You know, some that are really rip snorting through there, you might not have enough time to get too pretty. You might want to just keep moving, but it'll sound good in lots of different ways. So let's just do that one more time. The verse music for Down the River I Go. And I learned this a long time ago from Don Petty and Bruce Green. And Don Petty, I can't remember the source right now, but I'll get back to you. I'll put it in the notes there, and I'll put the lyrics in with the tabs and stuff shortly there. So starting on that C, walking up, just the backup without me singing. Beautiful. So we're getting a little melody in there, and we're just getting partial chords. I love that G. Just doing we're playing the high strings. So if you wanted to do a whole high strings, you'd have to bar, or you know, you'd get that be like a little small F shape, and then getting that bass that way. Okay. So let's look at the second part. It's going to be, you get to do that same lick that you're doing there. It's that, you know, partial, the fourth string as a bass, plucking the, you know, partial D chord there, second fret and third fret. And then you get that open third string and come right back to the fourth string, second fret, right? And then this time though, we're going to go to a G, that G again, that partial, I'm sliding. And the same little ending lick with the open fourth string. That's the whole second part. And that's where the words go. Down the river I go, Uncle Joe. Down the river I go. Down the river I go, Uncle Joe. Down the river I go. And what I've done is do a little walk up there in the tab, keeping it pretty easy going. This is a tune that allow you to experiment a lot on your own and find some nice sounds. You could find all the melody notes, and I'll talk about that a little bit too before I wind up here. But I did a little walk on the repeat of that on the fourth string up to that a four string kind of F shape, like the F, you know, F chord on the first four strings, but moved it to a G. F to G is a whole step. And I just do that and use the first three strings as, you know, three fingers for a chord. And we're back to the same old star of the show. So we get to do that a lot in this song. So you'll get good at that lick. So the whole chorus with that climbing bass would be like this. Down the river I go, Uncle Joe. Down the river I go. Down the river I go, Uncle Joe. Down the river I go. So let me go ahead and show you, if you're going to do that verse music, let's just look at D, G, C chords on the, let's just look at our D chord for a second on the first three strings. And what I've done in just a little tab is just to get you picking the 6 and 4. You can do it 4 and 6, or just do the same low bass each time. You can do alternate bass or the same bass. Let's just try it with the same bass first. So it starts on a C chord. So here's my shapes. There's my D chord. My G chord is going to be like a little small F. And then if I played an A chord here with the first three strings, with the open string, it would be 2, 2, and open. You take that up, the whole step to B would be second fret. B to C is a half step. So 3 from the first string, 5 and 5 gives you that C chord we're going to start with. And I'm just going to use the same low bass, be like, and now I go to that F shape and the D chord. And you can do that lick or just do that D chord. You might do a little movement there. So that'd work for the verse music. Maybe a hammer. And then you could alternate bass, it'd be like, right? Or you could do the other way. They all sound kind of good. One last way, I could just use the 4th string over and over, see what that sounds like. So you start to mix and match. Your fingers will get, if you hadn't done much finger picking, hopefully this will be something you can grab, no pun intended. So let's look at the other inversions of the same chords. From my next D chord will be up here, just like we had a C. It's going to be a whole step to D. So there's my D that's going to show up in a minute. But but we need this C chord. So my G chord, think of the shapes you already played. Your G chord, that little small F shape, 4, 3, 3 from the third string. G, you go up a whole step to A, whole step to B, and a half step to C. So it'd be right there on the 8th fret, the little bar F shape. And again, you could just do the drum bass, and you're going to have your D chords. You went up from D, whole step to E, 4, E to F, 5th fret, and G would be here. And that's just a D shape on the 7th fret, and back to that A kind of chord shape. So that would be, moving up a notch there. Just using the same bass. You could always alternate the bass. And remember, in your right hand, you could always stagger notes instead of just doing all notes at the same time. You could do something like a, you could do all kinds of things. You could alternate your thumb. So let's go ahead and look at one more place that I put on the tab. Up to your D chord is up here, but we're going to go up to our C shape. If you take the G up again, G, whole step to A, be 9, B is 10, and C, you'll be way up on the 12th fret with a D chord shape. It's like moving your D chord way down. And again, that would be your C. You'd be getting pretty high up there, highfalutin. And then you have that stretched out A shape, 12, 12, and 10. There's your G chord. And then your D chord is the F shape. So the big lesson there, if you haven't done much with chord inversions up the neck, is each shape, looking at my D, because I'm playing D, G, and A down here. This D chord, like a regular D, has the name of your chord, the root, so to speak, in the middle, the second string. The G chord, that F shape, has the root on the first string. And then this A chord shape with an open string, remember you have to fret an open string when you move it, like to a C or something. It's open in A, and that's the third string. So each one has a different root, right? So if I played, just practicing these inversions one time for the tape, then I'll do both parts one more time. D chord, root, middle. G chord, root top, first string. A, root bottom, third string. Each one of those can be the starting chord. So say I go from there, I'll go up to my next D, which is going to be that A shape. So here, this is what we're using. We're not doing the C right now. I'm just thinking in the key of D without the C. So D, root bottom. And then the G is going to be the D shape with the root middle. And A would be the root top. See, one of each, right? And I take that up way up down to 10 for D. Again, root top. And then G is the root bottom. Right? And then D would be root middle. So just remember your D chord is going to be a whole step back toward the peg head to get your C chord for the verses there. So I'm going to play it one more time. And just think about, if you want to find that little melody note, where you have that, you can find those. Mainly that's all you need to find to almost pick the whole thing. You could really do these little chord inversions for the melody of the verse. Because it's like da 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 da. If I just went up, say this right here on the 8th fret, pretty much the melody, and then you got to find that little last, and you got to get a nice, some kind of D sound there. So that would be just doing those chords. The first string's kind of featured. And you can even do a lot on that first string there. So just try to find the melodies. Just experiment. So you can really find the melody pretty good there on that second string way up here. That's just 10, 12, 10, and the third string 12 with the open first string. And it goes to a C chord there, I'm just moving it down. And back. And you can move way on down to that drony D there. So experiment with playing the melody. Anyway, hold both parts just back up wise one more time. Just remember the nice thing, you slide a little bit. And what you can do, just one last thing, is think about doing a D to a G. And you also could have a quick A. Really on that lick, that ending lick is kind of like if you want to do these chords without doing too many things, just D, da, 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 da. Some people might go D, A, or A7 and D. So some people might play a quick A. Anyway, here's the verse and chorus one more time. I think you'll find it pretty easy to back up the fiddle, and you don't have to sing the song, but I'll put the lyrics in there because it's kind of fun. Especially the nice thing about this, the chorus is so easy, people can all sing that. They'll jump right in and sing that, down the river I go, Uncle Joe, down the river I go. You could even say, down the river I row, Uncle Joe, but I wouldn't do that. That would throw them off, possibly. But you're on a river, so I guess you could row. That's the way you go, don't you know? So here we go. Here's my C chord. I'll walk up. places. Then you got that. Down the river I go, Uncle Joe. Down the river I go. Down the river I go, Uncle Joe. Down the river I go. Down the river I go. So it's a great melody, very catchy, and you get to do that ending lick a bunch, you know. So experiment, just like a banjo player. A lot of times, the guitar you can do the same lick in a lot of different ways, you know. So I think you have a lot of fun with this. It's a pretty well-known tune, I think, in certain parts. So hopefully it'll be one you could introduce to people if they don't know it, because it's easy enough to grab. And just have fun with that drop D bass, and just trying your little 3-string chords, 2-string chords, and noodling a bit there. So enjoy Down the River I Go. And of course, just the guitar's a wonderful instrument, and I'm sure you know that already. So take care.